Hey guys, what's going on? So today I'm going to be showing you how to do a headlight retrofit for your car or truck. All the products that I've been using I'll link in the description below so you guys can check those out. Let's get to it. Alright, now some things you're going to need to complete this job are some just basic tools like screwdrivers and some pliers and stuff like that. You're also going to need some steel wool. Sandpaper works too, but I found steel wool is easier to get into the cracks and crevices and stuff of the shrouds as well as the housings. You're also going to need an air compressor with a handle kind of like this so you can blow off dust and everything and keep everything clean. You're going to need a Dremel with both cutting bits and cutting wheels. You're going to need some gloves, you just kind of regular gloves to keep your hands protected. You're going to need safety glasses to keep your eyes protected. And you're also going to need a respirator or something to go over your mouth to keep the dust out when you're using the Dremel and to keep the paint fumes out if you choose to paint. Now the first step in this process is going to be getting the lens off the housing. There are a couple ways to do this. One, you can use a heat gun, or two, you can put them in the oven and bake them. So that's what I did for these. I stuck them in the oven at 200 degrees for 10 minutes. But what you want to do is when you get the headlight and the housing, it's going to be all put together and ready to go on the car. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take off all the pieces that come with that are on the headlight. So all these little pieces here, like clips that hold the lens on and stuff like that, as well as the bracket and the bulb itself. So now once you've gotten the lens off the housing, make sure you take out the reflector bowl that's in the middle here. And then this is where, if you choose to paint your housings, you're going to need some steel wool or sandpaper, and you're going to need to scuff the housings and everything and prep them for paint. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to use the steel wool like sandpaper and get in here. And that's basically going to scuff the housing. I don't know if you can tell from here, but the housing is no longer shiny like it used to be. I'll put a before and after picture in here of the housing so you guys can tell the difference. If you choose not to paint them, then you don't have to do this step at all. It'll save you a lot of time and everything. Just prep the housings and get them, cleaned up and everything. You don't have to prep for paint if you're not painting, obviously. Now again, if you choose to paint everything, you're also going to need to scuff up and prep the shrouds for paint. And that's going to take the same process. You're going to get the steel wool in here. Use it like sandpaper. You're just basically scuffing up the surface so that you can clean it up and the paint will adhere better. One thing I will want to mention is that you should do primer then paint, and you should find primer that's going to bond well to plastic. This is going to help you stay free of problems with the paint bubbling and not sticking very well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut the back of this housing here so that it's flat, so that our projector fits in there nicely. What you're going to need for this obviously is the Dremel with the cutting disc. That's going to make it the easiest. Obviously you're going to want your safety glasses, and you're going to want something to keep the dust out of your mouth. Now, we're going to go test the projector and see if it fits in here. Now, it's safer to go little by little when you're cutting this off. In case you make a mistake, there's still more there. You don't want to just hack it all off and then have gone too far. It's easier to take more off. You can't put any back on. So once you've taken about as much as you think will work off, go test your projector and see if it'll fit in there. So you want your silicone ring. They come with 2 rings, so you can pick which size you want to use. And then you're going to want to put on your nut. Now these are kind of soft aluminum, and they're designed to deform once you tighten them fully. So don't fully tighten these until you're 100% sure it's 100% lined up and everything's good to go and squared away. So obviously we need to take a little bit more off this one because we don't have it far enough down there. You can kind of see, these little notches in here. There's one right there a little bit. You can see those. You need to have the nut at least past those, preferably a little bit more past those. So you can see these notches here. You want to be past these a couple of threads, maybe 2 or 3 threads at least. And the reason for that is this part right here. This part screws into those little threads. So let me go ahead and take this out. So we're not done with this yet. We're going to have to go do a little bit more dremeling. But you can see the indents in here. This bulb holder right here needs to go in there. It needs to fit down and be flat against these bits down here. And so you need to have your nut at least past those so that this will fit on there flat. So we're going to do this a couple times. We're going to Dremel a little bit, and then we're going to test fit this. And then once it's where we want it to be, then we'll be able to move on. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the housing that I've already done. I've already gotten the right distance on. and then I'm going to go ahead and Dremel the second one. Alright, so this is the housing that I've already done. I've already Dremeled it and checked it and everything, and that's about as much as you want to get off of there. As you can see, it's just about flat. You know, as you go further and further down, I had to kind of cut these at an angle a little bit so the Dremel would get by there and I was able to cut to where I wanted to be. But basically this is about as flat as you want it for this particular headlight. Obviously it's going to be different for every single one, so you just want to Dremel and check till you've got it right. Now I'm going to show you guys how my projector fits into here. And this is about as far as mine goes on, just kind of very lightly hand tightening it. I'm not sure if you guys can see that too well. It's a couple threads past the cutouts in each place. So that's going to allow the bulb holder piece to fit on there properly and sit down on there all the way. Just like that. So you're going to want to make sure that you've got it cut down enough around here so that you're able to thread this past the cutouts at least 2 or 3 threads. So both of those fit in there and ready to go, and now we're just about one step closer to be ready for paint. As you can see, the projector itself has wires coming off of it that run the solenoid in here, and that opens and closes this flap here, and that's for low beams and high beams. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to drill a hole just underneath the big hole in the housing so that these wires can go through it. We're going to drill a hole that's big enough for just one of these things right here to go through. And then we're going to put one of those through at a time. There's 2 of them. Afterwards we're going to seal that hole with some silicone, just, you know, as a safety measure. We don't want any water getting in there or anything like that. So we're going to do that. And I've also got halos here, some angel eyes, and I've also got some demon eye LEDs. So both of these are gonna have to go on too. And so what I'm planning on doing for mine, and what you can probably do for yours too if you end up ordering these things to go along with it, is I'm gonna go in here and I'm just gonna kind of cut out where you can see right in there this little bump here, kind of where the reflector guard was mounted when the headlights originally came. So I'm just gonna go to the back here and just kind of cut this out a little bit to make a hole for these plug ends to go through. They're a little bit bigger, so they can't have a small hole. So I'm going to make a hole for those to go through, and then both of those will just run down the top of the projector, here. They'll just run down here and then they'll go into that hole. Now one thing you want to remember that's really important when you're getting ready to mount these projectors in there is that you want the solenoid down. If you put it upside down that's the wrong way, then your high and low beams, the cutoff's going to be the wrong direction basically. So make sure you have your solenoid down when you're going to install these, and make sure they're all really level and everything before you tighten, again, like I said. Now if you're like me and you went with the halos or the angel eyes, there's some trimming you're going to need to do on your shroud before you're ready to put everything together. I don't know if you can see it in here, a little bit of a cutout right there. I did that because when I mount the angel eye on the front of this projector, and we'll get to that later on, but when that's mounted and everything finally, I want somewhere for the wires to go. So they're flush around here like this, because just as it is, these projectors just kind of slide right over and they're just about a perfect fit on the projectors, the shrouds of the projectors. So they're on there just like that, you know. So they're kind of on there, can kind of hold it by the shroud and everything. So they're just about a perfect fit, they kind of slide on. And so there's not going to be any room for wires to kind of go around the side of there unless you give it a little cutout. So I went ahead and found that on the back of the shroud in here, there's a bit of a deeper kind of spot that the wires just kind of run perfectly down right there. So what I did was I just went ahead and did a little cutout like that with the Dremel right in there. And then that allows you to get your wires pressed down and kind of out of the way in there like that, kind of low profile, so that the projector will still slide by and fit right on the end of the shroud, just like that. So that's kind of what it's going to look like. So yeah, you've got your wires coming down here. Now obviously, I said before, these wires are going to be running over the top, so you're going to want to, once you get your projector in, you're going to want to spin it around so that you've got it lined up so that this wire right here is coming down the top, and then they're going to be able to go into that hole in the housing that I'm going to make back there. So basically that's how it's going to line up, and that's how it's going to look pretty much. You're obviously going to have to mount this to the front of the shroud too, and we're going to get to that. But that's basically what we're going to do right now. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to go into our Dremel kit here, and we're going to need to find a cutting bit, something just kind of like this, just kind of a bit that's going to get in there and let us do some kind of grinding and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and switch that out. And this is also going to take some practice. You're going to have to go in a little bit, then test it with the wires and everything, go in a little bit again. So now we're going to compare these, and since I've already done one, I don't have to go test fit this one a bunch of times again. You have to do that with the first one obviously, but then you're just going to want to get the second one as similar as you can, and then you'll be good to go. So I think I'm in a little bit more trimming on this one. Got both the shrouds here. We're just going to check and make sure that this new one we just cut out is going to fit along with the projector and everything with the wires in here. So, and this one fits pretty good right there. Alright, so now we're going to go to the second one and test that one. So we get a little more trimming on this one right here, and we got it to fit and everything, so now that works and we're all good there. So we can check that off our list and then go on to the next part of the video. So I'm getting ready to drill the holes for the wires on my projectors here. Kind of use this as a mark right here, this little hole, and just kind of drill through, because that's about as far below the actual hole as I want. We have a, what size is this? This is a 7/64 bit on here, and what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and use this as a kind of our mark here. We're just going to kind of go down in there, and then we're going to test to see if the wires fit, and then we're going to go up a size if we need to and go from there. So let's get to it. Alright, so there we go. You guys can see that little new hole we've got down there underneath. We're going to go test fit that and see if it fits, and then if not, we're going to go up a size and bit, and we're going to come back and do it again. Alright guys, so 7/64 was too small. We're going to go up 2 whole 64ths to a 9/64 and see if that's any better. That was still too small, so now we're at a 5/32. Alright, so that one was just the tiniest bit too small, and I don't want to go up to the next size drill bit because I think that's going to be too big. So what I'm going to do is use this bit here on the Dremel. It's got little teeth on it. It's kind of just like a grinding bit. We're going to do that, and we're just going to grind it out a little bit and work from there, because I just want it to be just enough to fit them in there, but not too much. So we're going to go ahead and try this and see if we can't get it to work. Alright guys, so I got those to fit in there. They're all good to go. Now we're back with the Dremel again, and we're going to go ahead and make the holes up here on this side, right in there, for those other wires for the angel eyes and the demon eyes. Alright, it's time for paint. You can use, you know, like rubbing alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, you can use that. I'm going to be using some paint thinner. I think it's just going to work better. So basically what you want to do with this is, obviously there's a lot of the dust and stuff. See on my finger? There's a lot of dust and stuff that's still on these lenses. And what we want to do is we just want to get all that off. We want to get down to a nice, smooth, clean finish. So what you want to do is you want to get some thinner on your rag, and you want to just wipe everything down. Make sure you get everything at all, and you just want to keep wiping it down until you have a clean cloth when you wipe. So you want to just keep going, and you want to keep going until you're able to just wipe like that and it's clean. So it's kind of a time-consuming process, but again, a good paint job is all in the prep. As you can see, after one wipe down, this lens does definitely look a lot shinier again. Of course, a lot of that dust came off, so you know, the rag is leaving behind a little bit of resin, a little bit of like fuzz and stuff. So we'll just have to hit this again with the air compressor before we're done. But as you can kind of see a little bit on the towel here, it's a little gray, a little dirty, you know, so it did take off quite a bit of dirt. If you do have halos and you want to glue them on, it might not be such a good idea to paint this area right in here, because a lot of times when you paint things, the glue doesn't stick as well. So that's something to keep in mind. So this is round 2 of wiping everything down. Alright, so now we've got the lights here and they're ready for their first coat of primer. So what we're going to do is we're just going to set them here. We're going to spray a coat of primer on there. Probably going to do about 2 or 3 coats with this, so we're going to go ahead and get to it. Okay guys, so now we're going to be moving on to installing the halos, if applicable to you, into the shrouds. So basically what we're going to end up with is something like this. As you can see there, we're going to have 3 spots of wire around the halo drilled through the shroud, and then that's going to hold the halo on, so you can see where it's kind of coming through back here. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to line up the halo with the wire in the little groove that we cut before, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use a thumbtack. We're going to use just a regular thumbtack to kind of mark the holes and get a spot kind of marked a little bit into the shroud, so that your drill bit has a place to sit and it's not bouncing around on the surface of the shroud when you're trying to drill your hole. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to line it up in here like this. Make sure the wiring is straight. This one, I just opened this one out of the package. It's got a little bit of the wires are a little jacked up there. So just make sure those are nice and flat as you can get them. And again, just like everything else in this project, this is going to be a lot of testing and fitting and making sure things are right before you move forward, just because you don't want to say, oh, that's right, and then go ahead and move on when actually you needed to test fit it again. So we're just going to kind of line this up a little bit, and then we're going to take one of our projectors here, and then we're just going to go ahead and pop it in just to kind of see where we are with our wirings, make sure our wiring fits again, all that kind of good stuff. And as you can see, it already looks good like that. So basically what we're going to do here is these particular halos have 3 little bumps on them right there with little holes in it. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. You can see the hole right there. And it's got 3 of these little bumps, 1, 2, and 3 right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to line everything up, and we're going to drill holes in the shroud so that we can put wires through here and through the shroud, and then basically tighten everything down. But what we're going to do is we're going to get the wires lined up in our groove in here, and then we're going to take some just you know, any kind of tape you have laying around. This is going to kind of help it hold it in place while we're marking our holes. So yeah, we're on here like this, and now what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of get it about where we want it, and then we're going to go ahead and put the projector in. And the projector kind of pushes on the wires a little bit, so that's why we want to have the projector in, so we can have an actual feel of where we need to kind of pull the halo a little bit, just to kind of line it up. Because as you can see right now, I've popped the projector in, but the halo's not straight. And we're going to start working on just lining this up where we want it. You know, you might have to push on the wires a little bit to just get it lined up the way you want it. You know, make sure it's level this way. So look down it like this. Look from this angle. So make sure it's not like sitting like cockeyed. Make sure it's in there just level and everything. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do the outside holes first. And what I mean by that is the outside of the shroud. So once you have it lined up where you like it, where you want it, take your thumbtack, and what you're going to do is just going to draw an imaginary line from one of these little bumps right here to the outside, and you're going to want to have it just right in the middle basically of this little beveled edge here if you have these shrouds. If you have different ones, you know, obviously it's going to be different for you, but you're going to want it basically just right in the middle right there. And what you're going to want to do is you just want to pop it straight in, and then when you drill, you're going to want to drill straight in as well. And then after that, you can take the halo off, and you can take the shroud out of the housing, or the shroud. You can take the projector out of the shroud, so you just have the shroud here. And then you can line up from the holes that you've drilled and poke on the insides. So we're basically just going to go do all of that. So now that we've got our holes drilled on either side here, we're going to take a little bit of wire, probably just, you know, a finger's length, not too much. And you're going to take 3 sections of that about the same length. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure the ends aren't too flattened from cutting. And you're going to want to take your halo, and you're going to want to feed each of these wires through the little hole at the bottom. You know, sometimes they're kind of hard to fit in there if they're flat from cutting them, but basically you want them about halfway. So you want about halfway in between each one here. Okay, so we've got our 3 wires, our little loops in here, and now what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and put it in. Obviously, if you're painting your shrouds like I am, you're going to have to take them back out, but you want to make sure that everything fits and all the holes line up so that you don't have to drill any more holes once you've painted. You know, it's obviously not the end of the world if you do. Just do a little touch-up painting after you drill your holes and everything, but I'd rather just have all my holes drilled before I paint. So what you're going to do is you're just going to slide the ends of the wire down in here like so. You're going to take some pliers, some just needle nose pliers like these, and what you're going to want to do is come in from the back and pull the little sections of wire until you see the wire drop all the way down in the front. So you can see that kind of pulls down like that. So once you've kind of pulled them down to as tight as you want them to go, reach up in there and grab both. So you want to grab both sides of wire that have come from each hole, and you want to grab them with your pliers, and you want to twist them up together, and that'll just kind of get even a little bit more tight on the top. It'll make the top a little more tight. And then what you can do is trim off some of the excess, and what I'm probably going to do, and what you can do is just twist them up a little bit and then trim off some of the excess and then leave some and just kind of tuck it up under here, back up into this groove, so that way it's there and you can get it and untwist it if you ever happen to take these off and take them apart. So that's basically like that. Your wires are down in there where they're supposed to be. What you're going to want to do now, once you've gotten that all tightened up, is you're going to want to take your projector and just fit it up in there again. Make sure all these wires are out of the way before you stick the lens up in there so they don't scratch it. You're going to want to test fit again just to make sure everything's the way it's supposed to be. And there you go. So those are all mounted. That's how you're going to mount them, you know, after you paint, if you decide to paint. So this is something you can work on while your headlight housings are drying between coats of primer and paint. Alright, so now it's time to go ahead and paint the shrouds, or prime the shrouds. And what I've done is basically just kind of taped these little cups to the insides of them here, as you can see, just so that they're not sitting directly on the table, and that I can pick them up without having to get my hands covered in paint. Alright guys, so now we're ready for our second coat of primer on the shrouds. As you can see on this one, there's definitely a little bit of a thin spot right there. You can still kind of see some of the shiny stuff. So as you go through your coats, make sure you look for stuff like this and make sure you get coverage on that too, because you don't want that to be a thin area. Now it's time for the third and final coat of the primer on our shrouds. if you choose to go with these, you can go ahead and follow along this part. If you don't have these, you can go ahead and skip on to the next part of the video. But I said I was going to get some spacers to put in here to just kind of line it up right. But actually what I'm going to do is a little bit more involved. You obviously could still do the spacer thing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the actual LED piece off of the plastic mounting bracket here, flip it around, and then drill a new hole for the screw, and then put it back on. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take this off and flip it around and have a hole for the new, drill a new hole for the screw. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and mount it. And one thing that I will say too is we're going to need to do some dremeling on the corners of this. As you can see, these corners are kind of defined. What we're going to want to do is round them out a little bit, just so they fit up in here next to these other circles where the screws for the plastic piece right here are mounted. So there's going to be a little bit of not fitting perfectly, so we're going to have to Dremel a little bit to get those out. And basically that's what we're going to do from there. So first we're going to start, we're going to drill a new hole for our actual LED. There we go. That's on there now. Alright, so we went from that to that. And that's going to give us enough clearance around that bolt right there so that we can fit these on our projectors. Okay, this one fits in here good. And as you can see, now it fits a lot better. It's got clearance between the plastic, and we're going to be able to mount it right up against there just like that. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do right now. I couldn't find an Allen wrench that would fit in the ends of these, so I'm just going to use a pair of vice grips. So there you go. Alright, so now the housings are ready for their first coat of paint. So we're ready for our second and final coat of the paint on the housings. Alright, now it's time for our first coat. Okay, we're ready for the second coat of our paint. If you do end up taping off right here, make sure you tape off. Basically, I would just say just run the tape line partially on this sticky stuff and just cover this whole edge all the way over. I tried to stick a little bit on here so I could get good tape coverage, but I think it'd be a better option if you just, you know, just come to this edge and then just paint all of that edge. That way you're not going to see any silver once you get the lenses back on. So. The time has come to put the projectors into the housings. All the paint has dried and everything, and we're ready to go. I found it easier to kind of put the projector on the shroud, and that way you can put it all in and line up your wires where they need to go and everything, and then you can pull the shroud off so you can look at the projector to get it straightened out and everything. You want the solenoid going down. If not, then you're gonna have upside down headlights essentially, so you don't want that. Basically what you want to do is once you get it in here, remember I said these lock rings on the back are designed to deform once you tighten them down enough. So once you tighten them down all the way, that's it. That's pretty much done deal right there. So take this slowly, take it gradually, make sure you really have them lined up the way you want them to. Basically what you want is you just want everything lined up so it's not all like sideways like this. You're going to want to glue your shrouds on to the projectors. So I'm going to be using some of this, just like Loctite epoxy. It's for plastic. It's rated for high heat. Just kind of put it around the tiny edge that you can see on the projector. Right there, that little first lip is where the shroud slides onto and connects. Once you've got everything on the front installed, don't forget to put your bulb holder on the back. So now that we've got everything put together, the shrouds are all glued on, everything's just about ready to go. We're ready to put the lenses back on the headlights. Now you can use the adhesive left on the lenses from when you took them off, but that may not be enough to make sure that you're really waterproof and watertight and everything around the seal. So what I'm going to be using, I'm going to be leaving all this adhesive on, but I'm also going to be using some of this. Now you can get this on the Retrofit source. I think it's like $12 to add to your kit. I think it's worth it, just better safe than sorry. Make sure everything in your headlight in here works. So if you've got halos or demon eyes, plug those in one more time, test them out, make sure they work. You definitely want to test the solenoid for the high and low beams if you have that. Make sure all this stuff works, because once the lens on the headlight's back on, you can't get to anything in here. I mean, yes, you can take it all back apart, but that's a huge pain. So make sure you double check everything's working now while you've got easier access to it. Just to make sure everything's good to go for when you're done. So you're going to clean off the lens inside, make sure there's nothing in there that's going to contaminate it. Alright, so the lens is now lightly pressed in there. Again, it's not going to be all the way. The glue is not soft enough yet, so everything's like that. We've got the oven preheated to 270, so we're going to go ahead and stick this in there for 7 minutes, soften up this glue, and then we're going to go ahead and squeeze it on the rest of the way. Alright, so we've been in the oven, and now all the glue everything is loosened up, so what we're going to do is we're just going to start squeezing the lens together. Just gradually working our way around. One thing you want to make sure is that when the glue is still hot, you put on any tabs or any screws that you need to hold the lens in place. This is really important because it's going to help just hold all the corners together and everything while the glue dries and solidifies. So if you've got any clips like these, or if you have screws that actually go from the back end of the lens or however they go, make sure you put all that stuff in while the glue is still hot. And the instructions for it too, they mention that. Make sure you put any screws or anything back in that you need to while it's still hot. So now we're going to do a little bit more sealing up around where the wires are coming out of the back. I'm just going to be using this silicone here, and what we're going to do is basically just kind of dab it up in here in this hole, so it kind of creates a seal around where these wires come out. And then for the bigger hole up top where the other wires are going to come out, I'm going to be using some of the actual headlight sealant. So we're just going to cut a little chunk off, probably about that long. And then what we're going to do is we're going to heat it up a little bit so it's a little bit pliable, and we're just going to kind of mold it over the hole, and then we're just going to use the silicone to just kind of fill in any other spaces that we have. Well, there you have it, guys. That's all it takes to do a projector retrofit. I know this was a long one, but hopefully it was helpful. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy.